Welcome to the Persecution Report. I'm Greg Musselman. Coming up, a Christian in the predominantly Buddhist nation of Bhutan has been sentenced to 3 years in prison. Find out why. Also, a Pakistani Christian is killed for alleged blasphemy. Later, North Koreans reaching North Koreans with the gospel.
I believe God has a plan for North Korean defectors who come to South Korea. It's important to do missionary work and send food and do humanitarian acts in North Korea. But it's also important to prepare North Korean defectors to be able to be trained and equipped in the gospel to go back there.
Those stories and more are coming up on the Persecution Report. Christians in Iraq have again been the targets of more deadly violence, including bombings and gunfire. 3 people were killed in Mosul. 2 Christian brothers were murdered when gunmen broke into their welding shop and shot them. That evening, police found an elderly Christian woman strangled in her home. The attacks on Christians that started in Baghdad have extended to the northern part of the country. A bomb attached to a vehicle of a Christian man detonated in eastern Mosul, killing him and his 6-year-old daughter. That attack came one day after 2 Christians in an adjacent home were killed after gunmen stormed their houses. Iraq's Christian community, which numbered 1.4 million in 2003, is estimated to have dwindled to 500,000, as many have left the country because of the violence against them. Police suspect 2 Muslim militants are responsible for the recent murder of a Christian man in Punjab province, Pakistan. 22-year-old Latif Masih was granted bail after 5 months of imprisonment for blasphemy for allegedly burning pages of the Quran. His release came after the accuser in the case told the court he was not certain Latif was guilty. 2 men arrived at the home of Latif and his mother and asked if he would come with them. When Latif and the men were a few yards from the house, they shot Latif 5 times. The men then fled by motorbike. Latif's brother, Junaid Masih, claims the 2 attackers were associates of a Muslim man who had filed the blasphemy charge against Latif, a charge Junaid claims was part of the Muslim man's plan to take over Latif's motorbike shop. 6 men attacked and brutally beat a Gospel for Asia-supported missionary in Nepal. The men accused Indra Ray Waglan of blasphemy against their traditional gods. They also accused him of forcing all members of 2 families to convert to Christianity. Indra and another believer were traveling to a neighboring village to conduct a prayer meeting when the attack happened. After the attack, the men left Indra unconscious beside the road. He was later able to get medical treatment. He suffered broken ribs and bruises all over his body. The police charged 6 men with the attack. Their case is now before the court. 86% of the population in Nepal are listed as Hindu and only 0.6% Christian. A Christian was sentenced to 3 years in prison for attempting to promote civil unrest by screening films on Christianity in the predominantly Buddhist nation of Bhutan. Prem Singh Gurang was arrested 4 months before the sentence after local residents complained that he was showing Christian films in villages in the southern part of the country. Prem was charged with violating the Bhutan Information, Communication and Media Act, a law that requires authorities to examine all films before public screening. Now, since the 1990s, restrictions were placed on missionaries because Christianity was making noticeable headway in the country. A pastor in Bhutan says evangelism is forbidden in the nation.
I think you can be fined, and at the worst, you can go to jail as well.
The believers in Bhutan are asking Christians around the world to pray for them.
Pray the church will be prepared to meet all the challenges, in as much as we have the assurance of love and praise from the West. But it's ultimately the Christians here that will have to stand on their own under the Lord's banner.
North Korea consistently tops the world's human rights watch list as being the most repressive and closed nations on the earth. Reports of dreadful and inhumane actions, particularly towards Christians, continue to trickle out of the country. But there are a group of North Korean exiles who have not only escaped the Hermit Kingdom, but desire to bring the light of Christ into the darkness.
In the following report, the names have been changed and some of the faces concealed for security reasons.
These North Korean Christians have endured hardship, suffering, separation from family and friends. They've experienced despair and hopelessness after living under an oppressive and reclusive regime that rules with an iron fist and that considers Christians enemies of the state.
One of the worst offenses for the government there is to become a Christian and to worship Christ over worshiping the state and the government and the Kim family.
Leaving North Korea is considered treason. People who are caught are repatriated from China and are often imprisoned in concentration camps, tortured, or even killed. Tae, a student at Underground University in Seoul, had escaped in 1985 because he heard there was freedom in China and South Korea. But he was returned to North Korea by Chinese authorities and put in prison. His wife was forced to divorce him.
I lost my identity as a citizen of North Korea. I was considered to have rejected my country and my parents after I left North Korea. I was not considered a human. I was called by a number in prison.
It was while in prison Tae came to Christ. He had heard the gospel from an elderly lady and saw a Bible when he escaped into China. While in prison, he prayed to become a Christian. Tae said it was too dangerous to take his children with him when he escaped again from North Korea in 1996. First to China, then South Korea in 2001. He prays not only for his family, but also for all North Koreans in the so-called Hermit Kingdom. He has a heart to bring the life-changing message of the gospel to them, which is why he came to Underground University, a ministry of Seoul, USA, and the Voice of the Martyrs, Korea.
I believe God has a plan for North Korean defectors who come to South Korea. It's important to do missionary work and send food and do humanitarian acts in North Korea. But it's also important to prepare North Korean defectors to be able to be trained and equipped in the gospel to go back there. It's also important to pray for our families in North Korea.
Tae married Shin in 2004. Shin was a widow when she left North Korea in 2003. Her daughter had also passed away prior to her leaving the country.
I left China in September of 2003, and the place I went, there were Christians, and they shared about God. It was the first time I heard about God in the Bible, and I didn't understand at first. They were very friendly, and I could feel the love, so I opened my heart to Christ. The North Korean government shut our eyes and ears to see or hear. And whenever someone goes to a country like China and accepts Christ, and when you come back and the authorities find out about that, they will send them to prison or kill them. So it's not free for us to hear.
At first, Shin didn't want Tae to have anything to do with ministry to North Koreans. She says it was just too dangerous.
I didn't want him to get hurt or into trouble. But since we got married, he continued his ministry to the North Korean people in China and South Korea. And people came to Christ through his ministry, and I was touched by his ministry and his behavior. Now I agree with his ministry, and that's why I joined UU.
Tae and Shin know the dangers of ministry in North Korea and are fully aware that many have been killed for their faith in Christ.
I pray God will be with me so I don't fear about my ministry, but I am careful about my security.
Through UU, I learned about people who have died for Christ in the martyr's life. I do have fears. It's not easy for me to dedicate my life to Christ. I'm willing to take the chance and go to North Korea to spread the gospel and take the consequences.
Tae says the teaching about Christian martyrs, past and present, at Underground University has prepared him to give his life if necessary.
It's not that I enjoy to die, but I will deal with it when the time comes.
And you can view the full report on the amazing ministry of Underground University and what it's all about by going to persecution.tv and clicking on North Korea Underground University. The Voice of the Martyrs Canada is helping to support financially the one-year training program in which students are finding creative ways to do ministry to North Koreans. Well, please continue to pray for our brothers and sisters in Christ who are paying a huge price to follow Jesus in Iraq, Pakistan, Bhutan, Nepal, North Korea, and around the world. Remember, when one part of the body suffers, we all suffer. Goodbye, and God bless.
For more information on the ministry of the Voice of the Martyrs and ways in which you can help a persecuted church, please visit our website at persecution.net.